These are real photographs from the Ottoman Empire, carefully restored, colorized, and brought back to life using modern AI. They capture the real people of a forgotten world, not just sultans, but women, children, soldiers, and ordinary workers. He was the Sultan's son, raised with the weight of the empire on his shoulders. Years later, he would take his own life, before ever reaching the throne. His father, Sultan Abdulaziz, met a similar fate, deposed, humiliated, and later found dead with his wrists slashed. Officially a suicide, but many doubted it. A glimpse of Turkish beauty from 1910, elegant, bold, and deeply rooted in tradition. Back then, a bear on the street wasn't rare. It was part of the show. In 1867, Abdul Hamid II visited Britain as a young prince, long before he took the throne. This rare photograph shows him at Balmoral Castle during a time of diplomacy, travel, and imperial charm. To outsiders, it may seem strange. Jewelry across the nose, veils that hide the mouth, or sheer fabric covering the face. But in the Ottoman Empire, this wasn't a disguise. It was tradition, modesty, elegance, and sometimes even fashion. These coverings weren't about erasing identity. They expressed it. Born in Prussia, Mehmed Ali Pasha became an Ottoman marshal, leading troops in major wars. In 1878, he was killed in Kosovo while enforcing territorial changes after the Congress of Berlin. She was more than just royalty. She was a patron of art, a voice of reform, and one of the most educated women of her time. Enver Pasha was a hero to some, a villain to others, a military leader, a revolutionary, and one of the most controversial figures of the empire's final years. This girl was the daughter of Abdul Hamid II, born into a palace, raised in tradition, but the empire she belonged to would not last. Ottoman soldiers and Bashi bazooks, fierce, unruly, and feared. They were daughters of the empire, veiled, adorned, and bound by tradition. But behind every gaze was a life, full of beauty, pride, and quiet power. In a world shaped by men, they carried their own legacy. The Ottoman Empire was a mosaic of faces, families of every background, language, and origin. Some lived in grand homes, others in quiet towns, and some, like this Afro-Turkish officer and his children, stood proudly as part of that imperial tapestry. Fatma Aliye was one of the first female novelists in the Muslim world, a voice for women, tradition, and change in the late Ottoman Empire. He was a powerful Ottoman leader during World War I, both admired and feared, remembered for ambition, discipline, and brutality. They weren't soldiers or sultans, but their music echoed through palaces, cafes, and city streets. These Ottoman musicians gave the empire its sound. Mehmed VI, Vahideddin, was the last sultan of the Ottoman Empire, a ruler who watched his world collapse. As the empire fell, a new leader rose. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, soldier, visionary, and founder of the Turkish Republic, would reshape the nation from its ruins. In the Ottoman Empire, boys began wearing the fez as early as age 5, a small hat, but a big symbol of tradition and identity. Hilayd Edib was a writer, feminist, and revolutionary voice, one of the first Ottoman women to fight with both words and action. Far from the palaces and parade grounds, the Ottoman Empire was built on the backs of ordinary people. Porters carried loads through crowded streets. Shoemakers crafted by hand day after day, and some men earned a living by lifting others, literally, one wooden chair at a time. They weren't nobles or generals, but they kept the empire moving. He was an Ottoman general in a time of collapse, loyal, disciplined, and tasked with holding together what was already falling apart. Life in the Ottoman Empire began humbly, like this baby, cradled in a wooden nest somewhere in the 1880s. The Ottoman Empire wasn't just maps and battles. It was daily life, stretched over centuries, people, languages, customs, all mixing, overlapping, finding rhythm. Every region had its own way of moving, but somehow it still felt Ottoman. The clothing, the posture, even the way people looked at the camera. It carried something specific. And yes, they dressed well. Details mattered, even for ordinary days. It wasn't some perfect golden age. There was beauty and there was hardship. But above all, it was real. A world that functioned, evolved, and then disappeared. What's left are these photos. No captions, no explanations. But sometimes that's enough. What we call the past wasn't some distant story when it happened. It was routine, normal days, normal lives. No one thought they were part of something that would disappear. And yet now, it's all gone. Not erased, but out of reach. These images don't explain. They just remind. That time moves quietly. That what feels permanent never is. Empires fall, people vanish. But sometimes, the light hits a face just right. And for a second, it feels close again. Not history, just life, paused. This man led the defense of Shkodër in the Balkan Wars. He was assassinated in 1913, a turning point in the city's fall. Prince Abdülmecid and Princess Nazime, children of the palace, dressed in their finest for a world they were still too young to understand. Not every child in the Ottoman Empire wore traditional clothes. By the 1900s, Western suits, like this one, had become a symbol of status and modern life. Sheikhs held power not just through wealth or title, but through deep roots in tradition, honor, and tribal respect. Luxor was still part of the Ottoman realm in the 1880s, ruled from Egypt, but under the Sultan's shadow. Armenians lived across the Ottoman Empire for centuries. As artisans, traders, and neighbors, their communities shaped the culture of cities and villages alike. But in the early 20th century, that presence would begin to fade. In 1915, the Armenian genocide marked one of the first systematic persecutions of the modern era. Osman Fuad Efendi was an Ottoman prince and soldier. After the empire fell, he lived in exile, the last dynastic heir to wear a uniform. No empire looks like an empire while it's still alive. It's just life, busy, messy, full of routine, and only later does it all become history. Looking back, we notice patterns, meaning, but they weren't thinking about that. They were thinking about dinner, or letters, or rain, and still somehow they ended up here, in front of us.